not about polished answers and highlight reels, like George said earlier. It's about the moments when independence turns to isolation. And so that's what we are here to talk about, another aspect of doing it all, right? And there are times when many of us are told that independence is strength. We celebrate independence, but sometimes doing it all alone costs us much more than what we realize. So today the conversation that we're having is about breaking that myth of discovering how independence can be, doing it alone can be difficult, and leaning on someone is not too bad. And today I have two incredible ladies with me, Swetha and Tanvi. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
All right, so Swetha, I'll start with you. So you moved from, what Neha said, a very, very typical corporate life into fitness. What did that leap cost you, and what did it get you back?
Cost me a lot of money to begin with. But to be fair, I didn't spend all that much time in the corporate world. It was all of 2.5 years, I think. And towards the end of that stint, I was very sure that this was not the place for me. And I have to say, I had the privilege to take that leap because I had supported family. I wasn't responsible for the bread and butter on the table. And so I had the freedom to go explore and chase something that I knew I was passionate about, which was sport and fitness. Of course, the time that I decided to make the jump, I didn't quite know what the opportunities would be. I was too old to play in a professional team. So I sort of went out looking for things in sport, but couldn't quite find it. But had the good fortune to meet somebody who was setting up Bangalore's first premium health club. And for all you old Bangaloreans here, I don't know if you remember Zella back in the day. Very cool spot, way ahead of its time. So I met the founder of Zella at a dinner. And at this point, I was desperately looking to get out of Ernst & Young, where I was working, which was not a bad gig at all, by the way. I just wasn't passionate about it. And I was looking for something in sport. And he said he was starting this health club. And I said, I'll do it. So I took a massive pay cut, as you can imagine, and went to set up this health club. It took about 2 years. And at the end of those 2 years, I pretty much set my mind on becoming a personal trainer myself, which is an odd thing to have wanted at the time because the personal training world was filled with bodybuilders, men, and I looked like this. So it was a strange choice, I think, at the time. But followed my passion, went to the UK, got certified, came back, and the rest is history.
Wonderful. I mean, I truly understand what that leap of faith would have meant for you. Tanvi, for you, you played at the highest levels in football in England, and you couldn't, because of your passport issues, as I understand, you weren't able to represent India. So how did that isolation or that exclusion change your sense of identity?
So to be very honest, I've always been a glass half full person. Obviously, for any athlete, the ultimate dream is to represent your country. And I was all of 18 years old when I was called for the under-19 India team. This is 2008. I did well in that India camp in Gwalior, but then they told me at the end of the month that unfortunately you can't go and play for India because of your foreign citizenship. Just a disclaimer, I'm fully Indian in every sense. Just my mom has a British citizenship. She's also Indian, but she was just born there. So as a minor, you get to choose one of your parents' citizenships, and my parents thought that the British one would be more beneficial. Little did they know that I actually have the potential to play for the country, or that it would be a hindrance in the future. I think that when they told me that I can't play for India, I figured that I wanted to do my master's in England anyways, which was just a year or two after that. And I went and I basically played for the university team, Exeter University in England. Loved the standard there, better than anything I'd experienced in Indian football. And then I figured that if I can't go on to play for the country, but I love the standard and everything I experienced in England, I would love to go back and try my hand at club football. And so it kind of, I think, pushed me in a direction, or rather showed me a direction that I could take instead. And I think that it gave me a very unique journey. Yeah.
Okay. When we talk about like what I just mentioned earlier, right? Independence, all of us are told you're doing something by yourself. That's considered a lot of, you're strong and that's like strength. And has there been any moment, either one of you, has there been any moment where doing it alone has actually held you back?
I think throughout this journey building Sisters in Sweat, I think every moment it showed me it's better to have someone to lean on than to try and take this forward on your own. Whether, and we both have very different strengths, right? And to lean on her, I'm the more emotional one sometimes when it comes to work. I get very emotional about work. She's pretty stoic when it comes to work, at least. So I am regularly breaking down because I just, get overwhelmed. And so I think the difference in our strengths is really sort of showed me that, having a co-founder in Tanvi or, in any case, is always a better thing to do, because I cannot imagine building this on my own. I don't think it would be possible.
Right. I'm sure there are a lot of people out here who are going solo, so anything in that context that you want to
Don't do it, actually.
So for me, I think to answer your question, perhaps in the football, in my football journey, I think since I was young, I've been given the role of captaincy for many years since I was small. And I think one of the things that ended up happening was that, and the concept of vice captain came a little later in my journey. And I think that I felt like there were points where, as a leader, I took on a lot. And I feel like in those instances, if I actually had asked for help in terms of leadership, whether it was from another senior player or from the coach, I think it would have probably even helped me improve my performance on field. Yeah.
So what was it that stopped you from asking, or what was it that you were scared of, or were you scared of asking for help?
I don't think I was scared of anything. It's just something that was, I think the captain's band was very naturally given to me, and I assumed at that point that this is everything that comes with it, all this pressure comes with it, and I should be able to handle it. It's only later on in my career when, for example, let's say there were teams then that I wasn't captaining, even handling the ego part around that. Had I early on understood that leadership is to be shared, it's better to be shared. I think those sort of things I learned along the way. Is that answer?
Okay, yeah. That's interesting when you said leadership has to be shared. What would you want to elaborate on that?
Because this is actually interesting. Just a few days ago, I asked Swetha this question as well. There are different types of leaders, and I think that I try to understand what comes naturally to me over the years as well. And I feel like I'm always evolving, also based on the team that I'm with, or the management that I'm with, the coach that I'm with. Also at Sisters in Sweat, there are new people entering our team, and how to sort of lead them. You can choose to lead from the front, you can choose to lead from the back, you can choose to lead from the middle, and you can also be a combination. So I think that just having that kind of elasticity is something I'm learning, and I think that comes from sharing that responsibility and observing someone else in the leadership position also.
Right, and I would agree with you. It also ends up being the kind of person you are yourself, right? That is where you will either end up in the front or the back or the middle. That's the kind of leader you will kind of become. Swetha, you've been one of the 4 certified Nike coaches or brand ambassadors, right? Coaches, right? Have you ever felt the pressure of, proving yourself
I mean, yeah, definitely. I think when a brand like Nike backs you, automatically you feel like you need to sort of uh, build a certain persona of excellence, and you've got it all together. So yeah, there's certainly a lot of pressure initially when I've been with the brand over a decade now. But the early years, being one of the first few to be called out for the brand, to represent the brand, really sort of made me feel like I had to be of a certain standard, and I had to sort of look a certain way, I had to train a certain way, and very soon I realized that's just not sustainable for me, right? And that I need to find my balance and I need to be authentic. And one of the reasons the brand even sort of picked me is because of what they saw in me before I had the badge on. So sort of my journey to go back to that person and just enjoy what I'm doing, do it authentically, and not try to build myself up into something that I thought I needed to do was an interesting learning for me.
And what about family and friends around? Like, was there pressure? Because clearly at the time there weren't so many people or women into personal fitness and things like that. How was that?
I think, like I said this earlier, I'm incredibly privileged to be born to the household that I was, where my parents were incredibly supportive. In fact, my mom, roles were completely reversed in my household. My mom certainly wore the pants. She was an athlete herself. She played basketball for the state of Karnataka. So that was my sort of role model growing up. That's what I saw at home. So when I decided to sort of focus on sport and make sport my career, fitness my career, I had all the support of the world. So yeah, didn't have to.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I would say privileged indeed.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I'm sure a lot of us here don't have that kind of privilege and have to find that kind of strength.
Yeah, that's something we notice at Sisters in Sweat, for the girls to just come out and play. I mean, when a girl is on the field playing, you have to acknowledge that she has overcome a million barriers before she can get there. Whether it's permission from her household to come out and play, whether it's choosing herself for those few hours or that 1 hour over all the responsibilities that's stacked on her. It's something to really sort of acknowledge and celebrate. And for me, I recognize the privilege I have to just be able to put on my shorts and run out anytime.
Great. When you started Sisters in Sweat with 15 women on the football field, what were the kind of fears that you felt like, is this gonna work? What went through your head?
So there was absolutely no fear.
Wow.
Only because Swetha was doing her thing, I was doing my thing. That first session happened by chance. It's not something that we put out on paper. This wasn't some vision, some idea that we had. Honestly, it was because of the reception that we had at the first session, and then them asking us to do it again and again for them, that we snowballed into today what Sisters in Sweat. And started off as a passionate project. It still is a passion, of course. But it's not something we set out to do, so we didn't have these expectations and fear of failure and stuff. Yeah.
Right. So I guess the way it started, as you had mentioned when we were chatting earlier, like just a conversation at a party and people just coming together and playing, and that getting into a bigger kind of a space. Probably that's one of the reasons that you didn't have fears, because I guess when you get into something as a business or in a commercial way is when you would be more fearful. So, but again, I guess what I feel is there's no point in worrying and being concerned whether it will work. I think you just have to work really hard, put in the best you can, and try to make it work. Yeah, without those fears, because those fears are useless.
Absolutely, like Tanvi said, we started because a bunch of friends just wanted to do something different than go out and get drunk on a Saturday night. That was the reason we started Sisters in Sweat. We said, let's be sober on Sunday morning, let's catch up, let's play some sport. Tanvi knows football, perhaps she can teach us, and I'll keep you girls safe because I know you haven't played a sport for many years, so we'll do a proper warm-up. And then it was just such a great morning, and we all went out and had breakfast after that and created the WhatsApp group, and the girls were like, let's do this every weekend if we can, and we said, let's do it. And what organically happened is that girls just invited their friends, and it just sort of became this. And every weekend, Tanvi and I were just showing up to play with our friends. That's all it was for a good 2 years. Until then, Adidas Creators League said, hey, you have the largest community of women playing recreational football in India, which was like, we were like, what just happened? And we'd like to sponsor a tournament for you guys. That's when it became a business in that sense, but still very much a passion project for us. Not even a passion project because they were going to do this for a very long time. But it's still a big passion of ours to come out and interact with women.
Lovely. And looking back, is there any surprising way that the community has changed either of you personally?
I mean, tremendously for me. I'm from Bangalore, very comfortable with my friend circle that I've known forever, and I thought this was it. But through Sisters in Sweat, in this city at least, obviously, I got exposed to so many other women that came into the city, hearing their stories, and having grown Sisters in Sweat. I truly lived in a little bubble, and I think Sisters in Sweat just opened up my heart and mind to, through the stories of the women that joined us. So it's been a huge change and shift for me personally.
So for me, I'm sure that Swetha can attest to this, I'm quite introverted. So Sisters in Sweat being a community, it definitely has made me more sociable. But apart from that, I think Swetha's already touched on this, but I think we realized very early on that the female experience that her and I have had is very rare. The fact that we've had supportive parents, we've had a supportive family, we've had the privilege of the journeys that we've had is not common for women. And I think that became apparent very early on. And so I think that, and the beautiful thing about women is that they are expressive in nature, and they will come up to us at the end of a session or an event or at breakfast or whatever, and they'll tell us the impact Sisters in Sweat is having in their personal lives as well, right? And I think that that's beautiful. I think that vulnerability is, it's wonderful for them to be able to share that with us and for us to be able to do that well.
Yeah, and I, like you said, Swetha, doing it for a woman who has crossed 1,000 milestones or difficulties to actually be there on the ground, that must be really heartwarming. What would you say, if you were to think back, what's the hardest time that you felt you were saying, I can't do this alone? Like, is there any particular instance?
I mean, constantly, to be honest. I think I can't tell you the number of times I've sort of broken down and said, this is too much, I cannot, I'm burning out. And Tanvi's been the recipient of all my breakdowns. But I think
that's what partners are for.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, she's like, you're punching back here. So, no, it's been great to have a partner in Tanvi because, we started off, like I said, just friends catching up. And then it became also business that needed to make business sense. And I certainly felt the pressure of that. Like, I think there's been, I can't tell you the number of sleepless nights. There have been mornings that I'm just up at 4 or 5 in the morning because it's raining and we have a run session planned. And obviously I have to inform the girls at time if it's cancelled. I'm hoping the rain will stop because that session needs to happen. So it's been a lot, and I think to have somebody just to, even if it's not supporting on the business aspect of things, but just emotionally being like, Tanvi, I'm like, I can't take this, I'm burning out, and for her to just be a constant, like a rock there for me, has been invaluable.
Yeah, if you just look at today, if there were any nerves at all being, here, it does help knowing that I'm sort of sharing the story with, my partner. But very similar, I think, especially now that Sisters in Sweat, we've been doing this for 8 years together. We've seen success, we've seen failure, we've seen a lot of hardships, sleepless nights, all of that. I think that what worked out very well for the both of us, fortunately, is that our skill sets complement each other. I very naturally am creative, so I ended up taking up, the social media stuff, making sure the communication bit is all handled, and of course sport as well. Swetha did more the dry stuff, which I keep doing. The numbers, the documentations, etc. And it worked out that way. And the truth is that you need all of this and more. You need more than just the both of us also, and we recognize that in order for success to happen, there's lots of parts that are involved. And I can't see us ever reaching this point, without the partnership that we have. And I also believe that I don't mean to sound arrogant here, but I think there's no two other people that could have built this.
I get that. I totally get that. I can say that for George. He's somewhere around here. Without, me, of course, being the older and wiser one, I handle everything.
Same.
We get that right. But yes, absolutely. Complementary skill sets, I think, are the best thing that you can find in a partner. What's one thing that you wish you had asked for help earlier? Because asking for help is not something that comes easy. And I'm sure a lot of people here would feel the same thing, right? It feels like you're being weak and you need something, and why should you do it? Why should you ask? Let's just go ahead with it. So is there any times that you felt that you should have asked for help earlier?
Okay, this is an extension again to perhaps the way that I was groomed into leadership. Very solo act, very captain, all of that. When Sisters in Select came about, and then I recognized that I'm the creative one, and I handle the sports, and these are the certain things that Swetha will handle. It was a very small team. It was just the both of us, and then later on we had 2 girls join us as well. It was a team of 4 of us. And I feel like I never learned delegation very early on. I think I had to learn the skill of delegation because I'm a bit of a perfectionist as well, and I feel like I can do it best. But yeah, I think that asking for help early on, would have been good. Maybe I would have learned early on that different people have different ideas and different skill sets, and it's always a combination that makes things beautiful. So
Tanvi, we are sisters in Swetha. I'm not in Swetha, though. I'm not doing that. But truly, I totally understand where you come from, because the delegation part is one tough nut to crack, and it takes a lot of effort to actually realize that it's okay, even someone from the team can do it and can do it very well.
And I'm the stark opposite. I'm a big delegator, so
That's how you pair up well, right?
Possibly, yeah. I think for me, I've never had a problem asking for help, and perhaps I ask for it too much sometimes. But I think it's important to feel confident to ask for it, to have a group of people around you that you trust, that you can lean on. So yeah, I think being able to ask for help is an important one. Tanvi, like she said correctly, very sort of within herself, trying to sort it out by herself, and me the opposite. Like, I don't get it, I immediately sort of jump and ask for help. So yeah, but we both sort of figured out now the balance.
Yeah. Any one sentence you want to tell everyone about which you wish you had heard earlier in your journey? Like, I don't like to live in regret or anything, but sometimes you wish that you had heard something earlier on and that would have helped. Like Shaiju's quotes today were something that I really wish sometimes that I'd heard that earlier from you.
And the hiring one was pretty good. So, interestingly enough, just 2-3 days ago, there was this English football coach that I follow on Instagram, and he said something which is actually very fitting for today's topic as well. But it's something I had to learn along my journey. I wish someone told me when I was a little bit younger, which is that you should not try to be the best at anything, because it opens you up to outside criticism and outside people judging what that means. But you should try and be your best, because then you're in control and you decide what the best feels like or looks like.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's actually deep because when you're looking for outside, you're looking for validation, right? And that you may not ever get. And that could be something that could cause a lot of discomfort within you because you're just constantly looking for validation. But being your own best could be like, yes, I got it. Swetha.
Oof, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, to be very honest. But if something comes to mind, it's perhaps that the grass is not necessarily greener on the other side, it's greenest where you water it. And I think the effort and the time that we put into Sisters and Sweat has certainly yielded that kind of a result to us, because there have been many times I'm like, why am I breaking my head over this, and why am I losing my sleep over this? I should be doing something else. But the minute I sort of realign that thought and say, okay, let me focus on this, let me find my balance here and do it as best I can, was when we started seeing, for me personally, that growth. Yeah.
Wonderful. Lovely. Now I'll throw it out to the audience if there's any questions coming from you all. Or have I covered everything? That would make me feel good.
Hi Swetha.
Hi.
Big supporters of what you guys do.
Yes,
My
thank you.
question is, during the course of building this, what was the most expensive mistake you made, and how did you find a solution for it?
Made several mistakes, expensive.
Expensive
Yeah. I mean, luckily since it's a fairly low budget thing, so I'll tell you what. When we first started Sisters in Sweat, I think it was such a unique thing. Nobody else was doing it, so literally we could just call out, tomorrow we're doing a Zumba session, and we were, we didn't have to think about it. The girls would show up and it'd be successful. And for us, the silver lining with COVID was that, there were women outside of Bangalore who couldn't attend our sessions who tuned in. So COVID for us, from a business perspective, community building perspective, was amazing. So coming out of COVID, we felt like, quite invincible. We could go anywhere, any city, and we'd be great, right? So we entered in Mumbai. And, the first few sessions went really well because the community there, some of them knew us. But then we thought we could do what we were doing in Bangalore, just start a session, throw out a new concept or a new format, and girls would come. And that's when we first started realizing that, okay, now other people are doing it as well, which is a great thing, by the way, but we have to get more creative. So there was a bit of, learning there that before it was just, being a bit cocky almost, thinking that we could do anything and the girls would show up. And I think after moving to Bombay and realizing, okay, there are communities there are people that are from that city who can draw in the crowd and we're new, was a bit of an expensive learning, but we learned quickly.
So I would say that, and I learned this from Swetha and I still continue to learn it, but being calculated, I think that's something that fortunately from the beginning we've been conscious of. Anyways, our expenses are little, but we've been sort of moving on pulse quite a bit and not just hope. And I think that in that sense, it's not been huge expenses, nothing super expensive that stands out in that way. And the truth is that personally, I don't believe in mistakes.
A quick follow-up question. How do you manage your time? Yeah.
Oh, okay. How do you manage your time?
Me specifically?
Yep.
Oh, somehow.
I don't get up at 4 in the morning.
I only wake up at 4 in the morning when I am in season, which right now I'm very selective about because Sisters and Sweat is a very large part of my purpose now. I think that, again, I've learned this from Swetha, I'm not going to lie, but just having a basic structure, like once my season starts, what's my day going to look like, breaking it up into parts, it's easy for me then.
I think managing time is incredibly important because I'm still, and so is Tanvi, very much she's still playing her football. I'm still, working with Nike as sort of coach, so it's important for us to get our training, our sleep, and all of that right. And when you're trying to build a business, by the way, that's very, very hard, right? But I think you have to be sort of quite dogged, and some things are non-negotiable. So it's almost a non-negotiable for me not to have 5 days a week of training, even when I'm traveling. I've sort of figured it out over time, but yeah, so I think there are a few non-negotiables, which is my sleep, my training, and my breakfast.
Also, she can multitask, I cannot. I absolutely cannot multitask. So for me, that's why like sort of having segments through my day is much easier, because if I'm on the football pitch, I just want to be there for the team. If I'm in the systems office, I just want to be doing systems stuff. So just sort of maybe compartmentalizing my day like that.
Got it. Thanks.
Wonderful. There's one more question we can take. Yes?
Hi, Tanvi and Swetha. I've seen you guys do this from a very, very long time. Okay, so you took it from, I remember, 15 girls who were having fun to 4 cities now, if I'm not mistaken. I think you added a bit shortly.
I mean, if you have Mysore, then 5, I suppose.
Yeah, you
This
did
last
that
weekend.
Mysore on the weekend.
Yeah.
And you went from, I remember when people spoke of boots, not just bootstrapping, you were scraping something below the bottom of the vessel. So today, finally having fun days and
Yes.
that whole journey. How has that been for you guys? And has the pressure shifted? Has the complexity changed? What happened?
I mean, it's obviously been a hell of a journey, because what started off as really a fun session with our girlfriends, 15 girlfriends, is now a community of over 15,000 women, 4 cities, funding, multi-year contract from Nike. All sounds amazing, but definitely comes with its set of pressures. We have tried to, I mean, I have to admit that we're also very lucky with who we've gone with for the funding, which is Rain Matter. They've been nothing but supportive. So far, have not put too much pressure on the numbers. It just said, you girls go do your thing. We're just backing you. We don't care about the numbers. So, but of course, you feel that sense of responsibility. Now you have Nike also backing you, and you're like, okay, fine. We need to sort of deliver a bunch of things. But I think because we're so passionate about what we do, somehow for the most part that gets drowned out. But has it changed from us just catching up with our friends on a Sunday morning today going into the office and also making sure that a bunch of things are done and there's a process and there's structure? For sure, it has changed things. I mean, I never had a sleepless night before thinking I have to wake up and play football with my friends. Today I definitely have had many sleepless nights, thinking I have to continue to grow this business sustainably.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Swetha and Tanvi, for showing us. Okay, there's one more question here.
Hey Swetha, I've actually been in multiple Southern Sweat
Go sisters!
sections. Yes. I actually have a 2-part question, one of which was one of the questions. How do you understand the pulse of the audience and see what they're actually liking, what's not? Because a lot of times it has got to do with experimentation in terms of the kind of sport, the kind of intensity that they'd like to like.
Yeah.
And also, how do you know from being confident to overconfident, where do you draw that line in terms of doing what you do?
Yeah, no, great question. I think the first part of your question, which is, how do you know what to do and what the intensity should be? I think it has been because we've been so present and been so accessible to the community and everybody on the team as well. I think the most important thing is that we listen to the girls in the community. Today we have a process around, which new sport do we introduce? We will do an Instagram poll, we'll do a poll on our WhatsApp groups. So there's some science behind it now. Before we were just trying anything and girls would come somehow because they were just curious. Today there definitely is a process. So the second part of your question was?
How do you go between confident to overconfident? Because
I mean, we burnt our fingers being overconfident a few times where we were like, we'll do this sport, and it just didn't work out. We decided once we do touch rugby, and the first session went really well. And then 5 or 6 sessions down the line, we just saw a massive dropout, and we realized that touch rugby is a fairly technical sport. And if for the girls who were regular, they got better at it. But new girls were always joining the session, so the coach was going back to the basics, and so the girls that were coming regularly just lost interest. So, and then of course our Bombay lesson that I learned, that I spoke about earlier on, we realized there has to be a little bit of speaking to the community, understanding if we were going to do a particular format. Is it a one-time pop-up that's going to be exciting to try? Is this something that you can continue offering? Those are the kind of learning things.
Second part of the question. So I think Swetha and I have been pretty real and honest about the fact that we don't know everything, and we will make mistakes, and we do have to learn. We do have to build our team. So there's no overconfidence, at least as far as both of us at an individual level is concerned. There was a point in time where we were the first movers. And so, there was no competition also in the market. Then slowly people started coming up with their own communities, their own sports and stuff. The one thing that Shweta and I really align on that really helps us stay humble as well and stay true to why we started is that if there are more movers in the market, they're just fulfilling our purpose as well. Right? So we don't see them as competition even, and then it's not a race. Then we find ways to collaborate if possible. So then we don't work from a place of ego, and therefore there is no overconfidence. And that's why we also, the other thing is that also to the first part of your question, even though the both of us are literally here, there, everywhere, we try, and this extends to the entire team, not just our operations team, but our brands team, communications team, the both of us. We try and be at as many events and sessions as possible because we need to have that face time with the community that we are catering to. And we get a pulse at that stage, at that level, at the ground level, what's working, what's not working. And like I said, women are expressive. They tell us what they like, what they want next. And we're cognizant of that.
Sometimes.
And we're cognizant of that. So we get that face time with them that gives us enough feedback, but also our WhatsApp groups, before we experiment with anything, we put out a poll, get a sense, and then we move.
Understood.
Wow, I think that was deep. I love what you said, the humility part, that you don't know everything, and the acceptance of that. I'll let that sink in for a moment, and I think we will wind up with that. Thank you so much, Swetha and Tanvi, for showing us